Hi and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Faris Haikal bin Bunyamin from Department of Ahmad Ibrahim Kuliah of Law, and my friend on my right is Adha Alia binti Sahrum from Department of Language and Management, and also my friend on my left is Sharifah Nur Asma binti Syed Osman from Department of Ahmad Ibrahim Kuliah of Law too. We are from the class of English for Academic Writing LEED 1301 section 44. We'll presenting about the extended essay presentation on the topic remote teaching and learning should not replace classroom learning. Okay, for the first part of our presentation, firstly I will discuss about our thesis statement. And our thesis statement is agreed that the remote teaching and learning should not replace classroom learning because of head, achievement and background. And for the further information, education has always been a critical component of long-term development. It can be proven as on a global basis, education for sustainable development is being recognized as a critical component of high-quality education, and it's also a significant factor of a long-term development. And next, I will continue with the definition of remote learning and classroom learning. And as we know, remote learning and classroom learning are two different situations, whereas the remote learning simply means that learning which happen when the learner and the teacher are not in the same place and possibly not active at the same time. And this implies that remote teaching and learning is when students and teachers are present virtually at the same time but not physically. And for the classroom learning defined is when a classroom is full of students with the teacher standing to teach in front of the students. And this reflects that the classroom learning is a learning method where the student and teachers are present physically in the same class. And that's only for the introduction.
Thank you, Faris. Now, I'll continue to explain the first argument of why remote teaching and learning should not replace classroom learning. To begin with, remote teaching and learning affects students' health. First and foremost, remote teaching and learning worsens students' mental health. It is because of excessive screen time during remote teaching and learning. In addition, students who struggle financially to afford online learning facilities such as computers, laptops, or smartphones can also feel mentally pressured. This implies that remote teaching and learning from home can be unconducive for students to keep up with their studies. Secondly, remote teaching and learning impacts students' physical health as well. In other words, some students may experience back postures while having online classes, such as having back and neck pain. This is due to the long duration of time needed for students to join lectures, work on assignments, and study on their own. Moreover, lack of physical movement during classes can also affect students' physical health. Apart from that, remote teaching and learning also affects students' emotional health. It is because remote teaching and learning have reduced interactions between students and teachers. By way of explanation, students have difficulties in focusing on online classes. Thus, students can feel frustrated and devastated when they barely understand a subject or a topic. Besides, constant issues with internet connections can also cause emotional distress among students. Hence, remote teaching and learning affects students' health. Now, I will pass to the next presenter.
Thank you, Sharifah. I will continue with the next point of why remote teaching and learning should not replace classroom learning. There is no doubt that remote teaching and learning could adversely affect students' academic achievement because it burdens the students. The online assessment and evaluations method is inconvenient to appraise the students' grade because it is inconsistent with the course's requirements and thus make the students suffer from the heavy workload. The students also are not prepared for the sudden transition of remote teaching and learning, which makes it difficult to evaluate the students' accomplishments without proper monitoring from the teachers. Students feel demotivated as well because there are students who are facing difficulties in adjusting to the remote teaching and learning mode, as they could not understand the content given via online. By way of explanation, it is challenging for students to entirely understand a certain topic related to their courses through online delivery. Moreover, miscommunication in group discussion usually happened. As a result, late submission of assignments have become a general issue. Most importantly, the home environment is unconducive for learning. This is because the limited spaces and distractions at home disturb students' learning. This highlights that the students are more prone to other kinds of disturbance at home. For instance, the students are required to do other tasks while learning online because it is their responsibility at home. On account of those distractions, the unconducive environment for learning could downgrade the students' motivation. Hence, the students' academic achievement is badly affected by remote teaching and learning. I'll pass the presentation to the next presenter.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Alia, for the presentation. Next, I will continue why remote teaching and learning should not replace classroom learning. And as we can see here, remote teaching and learning also affects students from poor family background. And first and foremost, poor students do not have access to the internet, or in other words, this can imply that the poor students are unable to access Wi-Fi networks, and at the same time, poor students also unable to afford the most necessity source of learning at their home. This is because purchasing Wi-Fi at home will place a financial burden on poor families as well. Secondly, students' parents have to spend more for their children's learning necessity too. This is because the cost of living nowadays is increasing and burdening the poor families. By way of explanation, smartphones and laptops are important for the use of virtual learning so that students can focus and listen clearly on teaching by the teachers without having any technical problem. And to add to that, poor families should prioritize their other needs such as clothing and food, and as well as their family welfare too. Most importantly, students are unable to focus on their schoolwork at home because of the poor family condition. This highlights that the learning environment is very important for the students too. Moreover, the learning environment at home and the learning environment at the classroom is the very difference because students find it difficult to focus on learning at home. By way of illustration, students will be more focused and enjoy their learning environment with their friends in the classroom, and hence, remote teaching and learning also affects students from poor family background. And next, I will pass to the next part of the presentation.
All in all, it is agreed that remote teaching and learning should not replace classroom learning because of health, achievement, and background. From Islamic perspective, it is crucial to seek for knowledge in any circumstances in order to reach al-falah, which means success and happiness in the world and hereafter. Allah has clearly stated that the believers must eventually win through those who during their prayers humbly submissive, who avoid being taught from Surah Al-Mu'minun. This verse depicts that the students should not surrender easily to the challenges of remote teaching and learning. Instead, the students should appreciate and acknowledge the functionality of remote teaching and learning by doing the test given truthfully. Accordingly, the students could achieve al-falah in their life by cultivating good ethics and rightful intentions in learning virtually. I'll pass the presentation to the next presenter.
Thank you, Alia. Now we have come to the last part of the presentation. Despite all these advantages of remote teaching and learning, there are ways to curb it. On the first hand, school and university administrations should allow students to attend school and study physically in classes. students must be able to return to school, especially if the school has better accommodation and many other facilities such as Wi-Fi. It is because it will help students to be more focused on their studies without any interruption while enjoying the facilities provided at their respective schools. In addition to that, it will reduce the burden on the family at home. Thank you, Alia. Now, on the other hand, teaching and learning should also be hybrid. Taking into consideration that we are still in a pandemic, remote teaching and learning could be the best solution to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. However, students may face tribulations while going through the learning system. Therefore, school and higher education institutions should amend the learning structures to allow physical and remote teaching and learning to be held accordingly. So that's all from us. Thank you.